Hi, my name is Rusty. This is an introduction to a bunch of YouTube videos I'm going to start putting out. Long story short, I have an inline six, a Jeep, 1989 Jeep Wrangler, and YJ, and it had a 258. Now it currently has a 4.0. But this isn't just the Jeep channel. It's more so performance, engine theory, things like that. Long story short, I'll give you the background. I bought the Jeep, had a little Weber 3236, kind of lacked on power. I mean, it's 3236. It's tiny carb for such a large engine. So took it to a Jeep guy. I didn't really know much about engines. I do a lot of my own stuff, but I'd done like cafe racers, rebuilt little Honda CB200 engine, stuff like that, but never like an engine. So it was very intimidating to me. So anyways, carb kind of sucked anyhow, not just because of the size, but just in general. Took it to a Jeep guy, paid him. He said he was going to like tune it up, this, that, and the other, and took out the lot, and it sucked. I took it back, and he's like, oh, whatever. Like, you should have, like, one of the screws was stripped, and he's like, well, you should have told me before you drove off the lot. Then, anyways, doesn't matter. He still has my carb, still has my money. I want a Jeep for him. Those guys I have a bunch of threads there you can find if you want. And those guys are like super helpful. So I was beginner and still, a noob. And I was like, hey guys, I need help. And they're like, all right, well, if you're gonna be this particular about the Jeep, like you should just learn it yourself. So I said, okay, that's all I do. So I went to Amazon, bought a Weber 38, slapped it on. And it was a lot of fun. I really like the jump of power from the 3236 that ran like crap to the Weber 38. So then I got into tuning it because I was like, all right, let me like perfect this thing, and I found it. I got a little inkling of interest in it, you know what I mean? So I started. There's a guy named D3 Shooter on here on YouTube. He has 2 videos, cleaning and dismantling a Weber DGES and putting it back together, and also at the same time goes over like the different functions of it. Awesome videos, awesome. He helped out a ton. I bought the book, the Haynes Weber cover manual, and on the back, they have all these stock, what they used in Europe and stuff, of how many carbs, what size engine, the auxiliary venturi size, this, that, and the other. So I noticed that all my stuff was kind of small, especially for being a 4.2 liter. So I started tinkering around with that, and I got even more performance because at this point, the guys on the forum tried to help me out with spark plug charts and all that. I went AFR, innovative, forgot what it's called, handheld. Anyways, and you can log it and plug it in a computer, and it shows all the AFR graph. So that was the snake that bit me, and because it kept getting better and better performance, and I was like, well, okay, so I wouldn't exactly say like Redline lies. I wouldn't exactly say Weber lies. I wouldn't exactly say that the Weber 38 cannot work on a 258. It can. Is it peak performance? No. You have to dig into the weeds. So then I liked that performance. The Jeep guys were like, why don't you try a Jeep 4.0 head on a 258? And I'm like, what? And so I started going down that rabbit hole. I couldn't find anyone that it was a big debate about whether it was the head that it was supposed to get 40 horsepower and torque. So, I think both. So it was a big debate. Just see the pans dyno. I think I've only seen 1 dyno out there, maybe 2 that are in the weeds deep inside of a forum somewhere. But it was a big debate whether it was the head that added the horsepower or the EFI that had the horsepower. So what I did is I said, all right, well, I'll dyno it. I dynoed my 258. And then I slapped on a 4.0 head with the same Weber 38 and intake. Obviously different exhaust. You have to use 4.0 exhaust, but nonetheless. And then I dynoed that. And here are the results. And I also have dynos of my Jeep 4.0 I have in there now with the Holley 390. And all of that kind of got me deeper and deeper and deeper. So I go to bed thinking about computational fluid dynamics and engine theory. And Uncle Tony just had a great video about heated plenum versus not heated plenum and all this stuff, and the vaporization, atomization, and how I can test that. I'm interested in it. I'm interested in what does what and why. But I'm not I'm not Uncle Tony. I've done this for decades. I'm not Richard Holdner by far. I'm definitely not Horsepower Academy. I don't have the cool accent, and I don't have a Skyline. I wish I did, but I don't. But this video is going to be more about theories, not just Jeep, and also interior stuff I do. Just cool little mods I do here and there. I've like 4 corners of my stereo are components, which is, you don't really see that in a Jeep. And no, I didn't use a bar. I used the sides. I used Kydex because, I've been into a lot of hobbies and I've messed around with Kydex before. Also done some fiberglass work and foam work and all sorts of weird stuff. So the video is more about all of that kind of just random stuff I do. Things I try to prove, disprove. We will be dynoing things. And I'll be slicing and dicing stuff. I also like the Jeep 4.0. Again, this will help out any inline 6s or 4-bangers, because of the theory. But I also like the Jeep 4.0 and 258s in that family because they've been around for decades. The 232 started in 1964. And yeah, you may not want to head off a 232 AMC. Yeah, you probably don't want the intake either. But the crank can be thrown in a 4.0, you know what I mean? And make a mini stroker. And, I've used the 258 Clifford intake I have right now is actually for a 258. And I have it on a 4.0. I had to sand the dowel pins. Not the dowel pins, but the dowel pin holes. I had to go up underneath and sand them and line them up to fit on the head. But it's doable. So you can find those for cheaper because not many people have a 258. It's just decades of parts. The 4.0 alone has like 3 or 4 different heads. There's 0630, 0331, 7120. I feel like there's a 4th one. So it's endless. There's different intakes. There's debates on the different intakes, especially if you have EFI. If you have carburetor, you have Offenhauser, Clifford, stock 258. You'll see I'm going to try to do a horseshoe intake, which I've done on Power Nation. It's just a great platform to learn on. It runs pretty bulletproof, So anyways, should be fun. And again, it's not all about just Jeeps. It's just engine theory and just having fun. And I'm not a pro. I'm not, I haven't done any world records or anything. I'm just some guy that likes to, go off a stop sign into the road and scooch my butt. You know what I mean? Middle-aged dad drifting, So anyway, should be fun. And yeah, I'll show you other stuff as we go along. I'll show you the Jeep next.